Hey, my friends, thanks for joining me once again for another episode with your girl, Anna B. I just wanted to jump on really quickly and let you guys know that I capture all of the requests within the comments far as states. Remember, I am a one-girl army, but I do see those requests, and please believe they are coming for you. So next up, I've got Oklahoma part 4, and I'm going to drop a Florida part 2. I've seen the New York request. I also seen the South Carolina request as well. So those will soon to be coming to your screens. Thank you so very much for the support, the love, the engagement. As always, definitely appreciate each and every last one of you. Let's go ahead and get into the video. Women Serving Life in Alabama, part 2. Ashley Catrone and her partner, Frederick Frink, told the police that they did not believe in doctors, and it was apparent after they both were charged with aggravated child abuse of a child less than 6 years old against their 2 sons. Huntsville officers testified that the couple's boys were severely malnourished. 3-year-old Hendrix Frink died of starvation. He weighed only 13 pounds. His 4-year-old brother was barely at 15 pounds. An investigator said their house smelled like urine, and the boys' cribs were soiled by urine, blood, and their feces. Both parents told police they tried nourishing the boys with Pediasure. Their 4-year-old was delirious and incoherent when he was found, and thank God he was, because he survived. There had been no prior DHR reports against the family. The boys' grandmother said she was prevented from seeing her grandsons for 8 months before police got involved. Aggravated child abuse of a child less than 6 years old is a Class A felony in Alabama, which is the same as murder. Ashley and Frederick were both sentenced to life in prison on March 2nd, 2022. Ashley has a parole consideration date set as August 1st, 2039. Frederick's parole consideration date is listed as October 1st, 2041. Neither has a parole hearing date scheduled per Alabama Department of Correction records. Rest in peace, little Hendrix. It was February 12, 2010, a routine meeting held for the biology department at the University of Alabama. Amy Bishop, a biology professor at the university, began shooting with a Ruger P95, killing 3 and wounding 3 others. On this day, Amy taught her anatomy and neuroscience class. A student recalled her seeming perfectly normal during her teaching. She then attended that staff meeting for the biology department. According to witnesses, there were about 12 or 13 people in attendance. Again, Amy was normal, sitting quietly for about 40 minutes before she got up and suddenly started shooting, starting with those closest to her, and then going down the row, shooting her targets in the head. A biochemistry professor said that Amy pointed the gun at her, pulled the trigger, but heard only a click as her gun either jammed or run out of ammunition. That same professor attempted to stop Amy, approaching her, asking her to stop. She then pushed Amy with the help of others from the room and blocked the door. Amy was arrested shortly afterwards on campus. The gun was found in a bathroom on the 2nd floor of the science building. Amy was charged with 1 count of capital murder and 3 counts attempted murder. On September 11th, 2012, she pleaded guilty to the charges, receiving life without parole. After her arrest, there were concerns that she had booby-trapped the science building with a herpes bomb, with intentions on spreading the virus. The police searched but only found the murder weapon. March of 2009, she was denied tenure at the college. Spring 2010 would have been her last semester there per university policy. Due to the attention from the shooting, prior incidents were reevaluated. In 1986, Amy shot and killed her brother in Braintree, Massachusetts. The incident was ruled an accident initially, but she was indicted June 16, 2016, on first-degree murder for the death of her brother. But after her sentencing for the university shooting, Norfolk County in Massachusetts declined to seek Amy's extradition back to Massachusetts. In 1993, she and her husband were questioned after a pipe bomb was directed at her lab supervisor. No charges were ultimately filed. And lastly, tragedy seems to surround the Anderson family. On April 18, 2021, Amy's 20-year-old son, Seth Anderson, named after the brother Amy was accused of killing, was shot to death in Huntsville. The shooter was apprehended and charged with manslaughter. My condolences to all 3 of the victims, as well as those wounded and the families and students impacted by the actions of Amy Anderson. Dominguez, an undocumented immigrant, pleaded guilty to 3 counts of capital murder for the deaths of a mother and her 2 young sons, which occurred at their Homewood apartment in December of 2012. Ana could have faced the death penalty had she gone to trial, but instead she received life without parole. The mother had been beaten in the head with the butt of a gun, while her boys, 4 and 5 years old, were strangled to death. During their investigation, authorities believed robbery to be the motive. Ana was from Central America, and again, she was in the United States illegally. Rest in peace out to the mother and her 2 young sons.
No remorse for human life.
Are you a killer?
Are you a killer?
Did you shoot?
Did you shoot?
Did you know this guy had a family?
Did you know this guy had a family?
Man, get the up out my face. That's what y'all can do.
No one lost his life here.
Okay.
Why
Did you lose yours? Obviously not. You still in my face.
Why are you being so defensive about it?
Cause y'all in my face with lights and camera. What the you mean why I'm being so
In court this morning, a much different attitude as the 2 suspects in the robbery and shooting death of Robert Perry faced the facts with tears.
I am absolutely speechless at, as mentioned, the lack of remorse they showed. That was a news clipping from Sera and Kimberly's March 12, 2014 arrest, the day after Sera shot and killed 66-year-old Robert Perry. The shooting occurred after Mr. Perry was asked by his stepdaughter to take her to look at a car she was considering purchasing from a man off Craigslist. Mr. Perry picked his stepdaughter up. They headed to the Walmart where she went to cash her $1,900 income tax check. Meanwhile, Sera, in the need of money, was out to find some. She and Kimberly first were on a hunt to find a license plate that matched Sera's white Chevrolet. They found one on a woman's vehicle at the Dillard's store at the Bel Air Mall. There was video footage showing both the women unscrewing the license plate and then putting it on Sera's car. Mr. Perry's stepdaughter left out the store and was followed by Kimberly to see which vehicle she was going to get into before she got back into the car with Sera. Mr. Perry and his daughter drove to the back of the garden center at the Walmart where they were meeting the man from Craigslist. Sera and Kimberly were watching from a distance. Mr. Perry's daughter decided not to purchase the vehicle, and he and she proceeded back to her home about 15 miles away on Bayou Jonas Drive. Sera and Kimberly followed. Once they made it about halfway up the street, Sera speeds up, cuts Mr. Perry off, forcing him to slam on his brakes, hitting her vehicle. Sera jumps out with a loaded revolver, screaming, "Give me your wallet." Mr. Perry rolls his window down to comply, but Sera yells again, "I don't want your wallet. I want her wallet." They comply. Sera reached inside to grab the wallet from the driver's side window with the gun in hand. Mr. Perry tries grabbing the gun, and the wallet falls. He tells his stepdaughter to run. That was before the first gunshot went off. It missed him. They struggled for the gun before Mr. Perry eventually gave up and tried fleeing through the passenger side door. A second shot goes off, hitting Mr. Perry in the left arm, piercing his jugular vein, exiting from his right side. The third shot hit the driver's side seat and went into the gas tank. Sera opens the driver door and takes the wallet as Mr. Perry is left there dying. The prosecutor said Kimberly never got out the car, and they failed to realize they turned on a dead-end street. They sped off before getting out and running into the woods. They made it about 2 miles before being caught by Mobile County Sheriff deputies. The $1,900, it was found stuffed in their panties as they were booked into the Metro jail. The state pushed for the death penalty during the penalty phase of Sera's trial, arguing that Mr. Perry's murder was premeditated, while defense continued to push that only the robbery was planned. And when she had learned of his death, she was horrified.
Sentence has been handed down in a 2014 murder case, but the district attorney is not happy with the ultimate decision. News 5's Cassie Fambro has more from the courtroom.
Earlier today in this courtroom, 22-year-old Sera Atkins learned her fate, life in prison for the 2014 killing of 66-year-old Robert Perry. Atkins showed no emotion while she listened to Judge Michael Youngpeter explain why he took an extra month to consider how he would ultimately sentence her. Youngpeter said that her early childhood trauma, her age, and other factors factored into his decision to sentence her to life in prison instead of the jury's recommendation of the death penalty. He also said that since the jury was hung for a while in their sentencing phase, that he felt some of the jurors may have been reluctant in their decision. The victim's family did say they felt the judge's decision was fair.
Justice was served, so we do appreciate everything happened, and we think we have we deserved a fair system.
However, District Attorney Ashley Rich did not agree with the judge.
So here we sit again today, Mr. Perry's day in court, our victim in this case, and he has overruled a 10-2 decision again. I think it's clear Judge Youngpeter's feelings about the death penalty.
Kimberly Lindsay was given a 25-year sentence, originally charged with capital murder as well. The prosecution and defense agreed on amending her charges to felony murder and robbery. They initially wanted 25 years on both charges, which they got, but the judge decided the sentences will run concurrently, which helps Kimberly avoid a 50-year sentence. She has a parole consideration date scheduled as March 1st, 2029, but there is no hearing yet. Annie graduated from Burrell High School, an all-black school that used to be located in Florence, Alabama. She would eventually become a licensed practical nurse working at Shoals Hospital, and she had private patients. Due to the higher pay, she began splitting her time between Memphis and Florence. She married Robert O. Dennis at some point, but in 1977, Robert, 40 at the time, was found shot dead in the backseat of his car. His hands were bound and his wallet was missing. Memphis police had no leads. Afterwards, she began caring for Ann Smiley, who Annie grew up across the street from. Mrs. Smiley suffered a stroke. Initially, she wasn't expected to recover. Ann's husband, Hampton Smiley, a longtime minister, and friends were happy Annie took over Miss Smiley's care. But some folks later became concerned that Annie was getting too close to Mr. Smiley, viewing their relationship as unhealthy. Annie had shared with friends that Mr. Smiley was taking her on a trip to a ministerial conference, and she was looking forward to the trip. However, Mrs. Ann Smiley began to recover, and she would now be the one attending the conference with her husband. Mr. Smiley had been gifted $1,000 cash in honor of his 28 years of service at the church. Easter Sunday, 1984. Before heading to Memphis for work, Annie Dennis checked on the Smileys. This was the last time they were seen alive. Monday afternoon, a family member discovered their bodies in their bed, both shot and slashed to death. Detectives were surprised at the amount of blood, some smeared randomly around the bedroom, and the $1,000 cash gift Mr. Smiley received from his congregation was not found. The deaths of the Smileys had the community anxious, and some residents were in such fear they didn't leave their homes at night. Some thinking the police were lacking the motivation to investigate this crime that happened in a black community. A reward of $15,000 was offered, which came together from the governor's office, the Florence City Commission, and donations from a local radio owner at the time. Annie Ruth's name came up early in the investigation. Florence detectives drove to Memphis to question her. When they arrived at the room she rented on May 9th, 1984, she told detectives she had been expecting them. She wasted no time confessing to her role in the murders of Hampton and Ann Smiley. She also confessed to her husband's 1977 murder. Tennessee authorities didn't fight and allowed Alabama detectives to escort her back, where she was charged with 2 counts of capital murder. Many people in the community still believe she had help and was physically unable to commit the crime by herself. Annie's lawyer, hired by her son, was able to work a deal for Annie in which she would avoid the death penalty. At age 48, she was sentenced to 2 terms of life imprisonment with no chance at parole. She's been at Julia Tutwiler Prison since August of 1984.